Hi guys, in this video we're going to be taking a look at building a motorbike model kit, and the kit in question is Tamiya's 1/12 scale Bimota Tesi 1D906 SR. Bimota are an Italian manufacturer specialising in exotic machines for race technology, but they do make road machines as well in limited numbers. And what they do is they make frames and streamlined bodywork to marry with well-proven power plants from manufacturers such as Ducati, in this case Yamaha and Suzuki, for example. And they will make frame and bodywork to fit a particular engine, and what that leads to is an incredibly well handling and performing machine that makes the most of the power plant that it uses, which quite commonly and quite often the original machine that the power plant was in does not do. So what's noticeable about this particular bike, of course, is the funny front end, in that it doesn't use a conventional hydraulically damped telescopic fork. It uses a swing arm on the front of the bike to connect the front wheel with hub center steering. And what this does is it separates the steering and braking forces of the front wheel that a telescopic fork doesn't. And this, on a telescopic fork, this leads to handling problems where you might have to brake very, very heavily on entry into a turn. So you're having to turn the wheel as well as brake heavily, and of course these two forces are fighting against one another. So the benefit here with this system is meant to be that that this separates these two forces, giving you much more control and better feedback. Of course, it has its downsides as well, as has been proven, and this is in development even now with virus motorbikes. For example, that's VYRUS, if you want to sort of Google those and have a look. And it's all very interesting, but the reason you don't commonly see this is really production cost, because a system like this requires so many components that have to be machined so precisely with such tight tolerances that the production costs would be very, very high. So because of that, this is not something that you will see commonly on motorbikes, whereas telescopic forks are cheap and easy, comparatively speaking, to mass produce. And this is why they are the standard on production motorbikes. Now, many people, myself included, back in 1991 when I first saw pictures of this in motorbike magazines, thought that this was something new and unique and innovative by Bimota. That is actually not the case. Back in 1910, the James Motorcycle Company of England produced the first known hub centre steered motorbike, and then in 1920 the Ner-a-car likewise produced a hub centre steered bike with a rudimentary suspension system. Now, as suspension improved in the 1950s and we started getting better suspension than the girder forks, sprung girder forks and such like, the hub centre steering system was revisited by several people, and in the 1960s a chap in Frome in Somerset in England called Jack DeFazio developed a hub centre steering system and made somewhere in the region of 50 production bikes. In the 1980s, the Elf racing team played with hub centre steering on their race bikes. And then, of course, in 1990, Bimota revisited it and created the Tesi 1D. Tesi is Italian for thesis, apparently, and obviously that's a play on the thesis of the engineering behind this, I guess. I'm not really sure what other relevance that has, but that's something I didn't know until very recently, just checking up a little bit of history on it. So anyway, we're going to open the box, take a look at the contents and see what we have. Having a quick look at the box art, on the long sides here you see some very nice detailed images of the hub centre steering and a side profile view, and on the other side, the opposite side profile view and the same side profile view but in see-through format, showing the design with the frame that holds the engine and front and rear suspension assemblies together. And then of course the ends of the box are just reproductions of the front cover art, and it's kit number 62. So the first thing we've got is the complete body shell, nice cleanly moulded with good sharp detail, and the top cowling with a couple of parts to trim off and clean up, but very nice, clean, sharply moulded, and typical Tamiya with no noticeable flash. Then we have the clear parts sprue, which has again very nicely moulded with the screen, front light, rear light and indicator lenses. Here we have a silver grey sprue which contains various parts of the frame, braking assembly, exhausts and such like. And again the moulding is very sharp, very crisp, really nice detail, including the chain link detail down here, and again no noticeable flash, a few mould lines and seam lines to clean up, but nothing particularly noticeable or dramatic. Up next is a black sprue, and this particular sprue will look very familiar to you if you've built the Ducati 916 Tamiya kit, because we've got a very 916 type Ducati V-twin motor on this particular sprue, including the radiators and various bits and pieces, although this one has carburetors rather than a fuel injection rail. So it's kind of like a combination between the 916 model kit motor and the 888 model kit motor, although the 888 model kit motor has exposed timing belts, whereas this has the covers. So as I say, that will look very familiar if you built the Tamiya 916 kit. And here we have the final sprue, which is a white plastic sprue which contains the wheels, the hugger, the front mudguard, the body panels, trellis framework and the paddock stand, and just various little bits of trim. Again, very, very nicely, cleanly moulded, crisp detail, really well detailed, and just a few tiny little seam lines to clear up, but no eject pin marks or flash. So it's looking very nice and clean. So the next step will be to give these a clean and get them prepped ready for primer. The only remaining things to mention are the decal sheet, which you can see here, which consists of mostly of the red decals, which is nice because it means you can spray the whole body white without actually having to worry about masking bits off to spray portions of it red. You just everything's already here for you to just go ahead and do that. Put the decals on and that sorts out the red for you, and then you can clear coat over them. And you'll notice that, well, I don't know how well you can see that on here, but some of these decals have got a slight bit of yellowing on the backing, and I will show you in a separate video a little trick to fix that before you use the decals. And then finally, of course, we've got the instruction sheet with a nice picture of the completed model kit and a synopsis in English and in various other languages, including Japanese, of course. And then you've got the colour call-outs on the inside page, and then these nice exploded diagrams on each page, working through, showing each piece bit by bit, and the instructions working through to the last page, which will then show you the final stages for decal application.